What is going on, guys? Welcome back to your Lake Fork Guide, another episode of Guides Network. Today we're going to get you some in-depth instructional information doing what we do best here, and that is going more in depth than anybody else is willing to, giving up all the goods on how to catch these big East Texas Lake Fork bass. Today's topic is going to be a good one. We're going to talk about how probably my favorite technique for summertime offshore deep structure fishing, and it's a way that catches some big fish. It's a big fish killer, and that is going to be, normally we would say a football jig, but today we're going to talk about the 6 Sense hybrid jig. And I'm going to talk to you guys today about several different ways that I use this. There's some different techniques you can use this for. It's so versatile. It almost doesn't matter how the fish are set up on the structure. You can do something with this jig to catch them, whether they're off the bottom, on the bottom, chasing bait. There's a way to use this to catch them, and we're going to talk about all those today. Before we get into all that, let's talk about our gear that we're using on the hybrid jig. This is this one right here is a 3/4 ounce, and that's the heaviest model they make right now, so that's the one I use all the time when I'm out deep on fork. But this is the hybrid jig made by 6 Sense Lures, and it just looks like a normal, kind of triangular shaped flipping jig that you'd put in wood. Here's the difference. The bottom of this jig has a little bit of a bevel to it, a little bit of a curve. What that does is it allows it, when you're dragging it, it will rock like a football jig does. At the same time, that head design allows you to get through all this thick timber that we have on these East Texas lakes, especially Lake Fork, a lot better than a traditional football head jig. That wide head on a football jig, jig is known to hang up in those cracks and crevices in the corners of the tree branch forks and stuff like that, and the root systems, all that kind of stuff. That football head jig's kind of notorious for hanging up in, and this is just so much better coming through that type of cover. There is a time when I trim my skirts on my football jigs and I trim my craws, and that's when I'm dragging them real slow. And we'll talk here in a little bit about the different types of retrieve techniques, but the only time that I'll trim my skirt real short up to the hook bend and trim my crawl down real short is just when I'm only dragging it. There's a stroking technique and a swimming technique that I use where I actually want the skirt to be full. I want a full length crawl in there. It's a pretty big profile bait, but what that does is as that jig is moving, it just flows and it moves more water and it just draws more attention to it. So I like to leave a full skirt and a full crawl in there for those techniques. Next thing, rod. This is a 6 Sense Lux Series rod. I'm throwing this big jig on a 7/6 heavy with a fast action. This is a great jig rod, guys. It's very light, it's very sensitive, but it's got a ton of power for a 7/6 rod. Just love it. And as you guys can see, with everything from 6 Sense Lures, just the fit and finish of it, it comes out of the package, it just looks so good. They do such a good job of making things, making products that you can really be proud to fish. When you fish 6 Sense products, you're gonna look sharp with your gear. As far as line goes, always for me on a big jig, it's gonna be 20-pound fluorocarbon, 100% of the time. I do not like braid, especially fishing offshore structure like this. That braid will cut grooves into the wood and dig into it more. It makes noise when it hits wood. I don't think the fish like that very much. So always 20-pound fluorocarbon for me when I'm fishing a jig. All right, so that's the gear. Now, for areas that we're doing this in, what I'm looking for is long, and I mean super long, the longest points that I can find that run out into the middle of the main lake, and at the end of them fall off into preferably 40+ feet of water. I want the top of that point, the crest of that point where the fish are setting up, to be somewhere between 17 and 18 to 25 feet of water. That's kind of my depth zone where I want my flat spot on the top of that point. Timber, no timber, doesn't really matter to me. I'm going to check, those fish are relating to the bottom contours, so I'm going to check all those spots like that I can find on the map, and I'm going to use my electronics to identify whether or not those fish are holding on there or not. And by the way, guys, 6 Sense rods, 6 Sense hybrid jig, both of those items from 6 Sense Lures, you can get a 10% discount on everything from 6 Sense Lures. When you go there and you make an order, when you get to the checkout screen, there's a spot down there that says enter a promo code, punch in the code, your Lake Fork Guide, all one word, all lowercase, and you get a and you'll get a 10% discount on anything you buy. So if you're interested in getting some hybrid jigs, interested in getting some of these rods, which I highly recommend, be sure you punch in that code, save yourself a little money. For my trailer, my primary trailer is going to be the Smash Crawl from Smash Tech. I'll link that below as well. 6 Cents will be linked below. Smash Tech will be linked below. The Smash Crawl on their site. This is a green pumpkin. This color right here that I'm using is called Crawfish Drone. But I'm going to be honest with you guys, and I know all my sponsors, they don't like it when I tell you this, just get you a green or a brown or something like that. I mean, when you're fishing them out deep like that, go with something that's kind of a natural type color and you'll be good. First retrieve, and the one where I actually will trim the skirt and the crawl down really short and compact, it's just going to be a drag and retrieve. So once I've got those fish marked on the spot, I got my waypoints marked, I'm going to use my front graph to set up on those waypoints where I can make a good cast across them. I'm going to try and cast the jig past the school of fish. After it hits the water, I'm actually going to strip a little line so that jig will fall straight down, because if you don't, it will pendulum back to you and sometimes you can miss part of that school. Then I'm going to wait for the jig to get all the way on the bottom. Just hit bottom. Now once it hits bottom, all I'm going to do is reel up my slack, point my rod at it, and now I'm going to just lift. And I'm just going to slowly drag. And you'll feel that bait will catch on some rocks, it'll catch on some root systems of trees. Just keep it coming. You'll feel that fish when he hits it. They usually, with that jig, they'll wrap it on the head pretty hard. I mean, they'll hit it. As soon as you feel any kind of a pop that feels like a fish bite, don't check them up, don't wait. Just reel your slack down and hit them as hard as you possibly can. You got a lot of line out in this situation. That's why you got that 7/6 heavy action rod. That's why you got that big line. That jig's got a big hook, so you got to put a lot of pressure on them. So go ahead and swing for the fences on these hook sets, guys. The next technique I'm going to talk about is stroking. This is one of the moving type of retrieve, and I want to leave that full skirt and full crawl just like I have here. And this has probably been the best one here lately on forks, but we've been stroking that jig out there. Again, we'll make a long cast past the school, strip a little bit of line, let that jig fall all the way to the bottom. All right, so once that jig's on the bottom, I'm going to get just a little bit of bow in my line, and I'm going to pop it. Snap it just like that. Now, I use this technique when I drive over that spot and I see fish just spinning off the bottom, anywhere from 2 to 5 or 6 feet. I'll go ahead and stroke it. Now, I will tell you that you'll be surprised how much you're actually moving that jig off the bottom when you snap it like that. If you look right here, I'm tightening my line right here. I'm moving that rod all the way to here. That's a good 5 feet. I'm snapping that jig 5-6 feet off the bottom when I do that. So give it a good whop. Now, if they're just real tight, about 2 foot to the bottom, then I'll stroke it a little bit shorter, a little bit smaller strokes. What'll happen a lot of times on this, you'll be stroking that jig. If you pay attention, you'll feel them bite it. They're going to bite it as it's falling on slack line. And if you're paying real close attention with this 6-inch rod, it's sensitive. You'll feel them bite it on slack line most of the time. Sometimes you won't. And you'll go to stroke and you'll have a fish and you'll hit it and it'll load up. When it does that, guys, all you can do is just go with it. Don't put it back down, try to reel up and reset it. If you go to stroke it like this and you feel that weight load up, just hit it and just lean back and just burn that reel handle as much as you can. If you get a chance to catch up to them and dig it in a little more, go ahead and do that. But if you pop them like this and then you point your rod down to go set the hook again, they're going to spit that jig out most of the time. All right, third technique. And this is the one that I've never told anybody about, never told any of my friends. I've told maybe 1 or 2 of my friends about. Don't really put it on camera very much, so this one is top secret. Y'all don't tell anybody. It's a top secret guide trick right here. We'll go ahead and make a long cast, same cast again, same deal. Get the jig all the way on the bottom. When you've got a really stumpy point that's got some fish on it, but it's got a lot of wood cover, it's a great technique. When you've got a shell bed or some rocks or something like that, it's a great retrieve. This, in a lot of ways for me, has taken place of deep cranking. If I see streaks on the graph, they're really chasing shad real hard. If I see a lot of bait around the fish that are on the structure, I'll go to this technique. Once that jig is all the way on the bottom, all I'm going to do is get my slack out of it, reel it down tight, and once I've got my line tight, I'm going to point my rod straight down all the way to the water. And now I'm just going to do this. Steadily reel. Every once in a while I'll give it a little jump. I'm trying to keep that jig in contact with the bottom, but keep it swimming. This is a swimming retrieve. That beveled head on that on that hybrid jig is going to keep that bait bouncing around and rocking like this, and your jig's just down there boom, 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 bouncing around, and those claws are flapping behind it the whole time. It's basically like having a swim jig and structure in 20+ foot of water, and it is absolutely a great way to train wreck them, because not a lot of people do this. There's a few, but not very many people do this with a jig, and these fish don't see it very often. And when they're in the mood to eat and chase, and you give them that old low crawl swimming technique, go ahead, head. Not a giant, but that's a big one. That's a jig fish. Yeah, that's a jig. Hope you guys had fun watching this. I hope it was able to help you. Hey man, get out there, get after some of these deep offshore structure fish. There's not much more fun in the world than getting on a great school of bass and catching them one after another in the early summertime. So hey, we appreciate you guys watching. Be sure to check out 6 Sense Lures. Be sure to check out Smash Tech Baits. And we'll see you next time right here with your Lake Fork guy.